Hi, if you're new here, my name is Hannah and I live tiny with our family of 8 in a shed to homestead conversion. It has since been added on to, so praise Yah. It's a lot more roomy and slowly coming together, and I'll show you some of our humble homestead. It's not exactly pretty right now because it's still winter. It's all kind of muddy and brown, but that's part of the essence of this video is finding the beauty in things and being very intentional with how we frame things in our mind. So today I wanted to talk about overcoming a sense of overwhelm. So I have some notes. So if you see me looking down, this is what I'm looking at. I was someone who used to wake up feeling defeated and overwhelmed before the day even began. Before my feet even hit the ground, I would just take a deep sigh and think, what's in for me today? I know what it's like to feel like you're drowning and not really even know why, or not even really know how to express it, to pinpoint the exact reason. I realized that it was because it wasn't based on any particular thing. It was easy to want to blame my circumstances, but the fact was, it really wasn't my circumstances, it was how I thought about them. I realized through reading the book Happy School that it's not our circumstances or our environment that create happiness or discontent. It's our thoughts about our situations. Those are the things that determine how we view our situation in life. The most life-changing lesson I got from Happy School was that it was not my environment or my circumstances that were responsible for how happy I was. It was my thoughts. And, you know, we can see this all the time out in the world. We'll see some women who seemingly have everything. You know, they're the ones who are getting the brand new clothes and have new books to read all the time and have a beautiful home and plenty of money, and they're still moping around and addicted to their phones and they don't know why they're sad. Or you have, on the flip side, you have people who have very small homes and old hand-me-downs. They only shop at Goodwill, and a lot of things that they have been given to them, and they have just the sweetest, most grateful demeanor. And it's so easy to think, well, that's just their intrinsic nature. That's just how they're wired. And in an essence, that's part of it. But I was basically hit upside the head with the realization that I was choosing to be sad. I was choosing to be a victim. I was choosing self-pity, that I was not taking my thoughts captive. This is what started my deep dive into the science of it, and it is fact that our thoughts create our emotions. So when we think something like, I'm drowning, I'm overwhelmed, I'm so stressed, I'm exhausted, I'm so tired, I can't do this anymore, oh, I'm failing, I'm so sick of this, how are you going to feel? You can't be thinking thoughts like that and then be conquering your day. You can't be thinking about how miserable you are and then show up as the person you want to be. I've heard some pretty outlandish responses to this. Some people say, well, you're just trying to gaslight yourself about your situation, and that's not true. You are not gaslighting yourself by choosing truer thoughts. You're not gaslighting yourself by choosing happiness, by choosing to find a better, healthier way to look at things. That's not gaslighting, that's mental health. It is so much better than just sitting there thinking about all the things in your life that are lacking or that you don't have or what's missing and what's disappointing. Instead, you are training your mind to find the silver lining. You're training your mind to hunt for the good, to find the sunshine, to look for the beauty around you. And I realized I had to do that. I had to stop listing in my head all the reasons why I didn't have what I wanted and why life was miserable. I had to start listing for myself all the reasons why my life was beautiful. And one of the things that actually helped was vlogging for this channel, was finding pretty things around our fixer-upper, our humble homestead, and finding things to put into video form that I started to see, like, this slow, intentional life thing, it's actually pretty beautiful. My point in saying all that is, if you're feeling overwhelmed, it's not necessarily your circumstances, it's how you're perceiving and interpreting your situation and how you're speaking to yourself about it, because we assign value to our situations. We get to decide if something is wonderful or sucky. We get to decide if it's wonderful, if it's a growing experience, if we're going to show up in alignment with our best version of ourselves, or if we're going to choose to be miserable, and if we're going to tell ourselves, when I get this, 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 and this, then I'll be happy. We get to assign that value to our everyday lives. And when we really sit with ourselves and really think about the portion that our Creator has for us right now, and even if we have to pray, please show me the beauty, He is faithful and He will do that. And we can start to see for ourselves the beauty in the situation that we are in and start to bloom where we are planted. So this is where I'm going to need to refer to my notes. How I reset my mind. And we could really go into this for a hot minute, but I've tried to squeeze it down to just 3 major points. Number 1, take every thought captive. Instead of thinking things like, I can't do this. That was another one I used to think all the time. I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. And then would wake up the next day and continue to do it. Imagine that. So I started telling myself, I am doing this. I am doing this. And then I would think, with Yahweh, all things are possible. My Father, my Creator, is my strength. He will give me a peace that surpasses all understanding. And He was faithful. I realized I wasn't truly having the faith that I needed in the beginning to believe that He was actually going to do that. That was another piece of it too, was fully believing that He would show up as much as I was believing that He would. And then I also had to do my part. You know, we pray like it all depends on God, but work as if it all depends on us. There's that balance. We have to have both. So we have to do the footwork of taking our thoughts captive and to pray, but we also have to be faithful and receptive to His healing and His provision. And I'm in awe of our all-encompassing, wonderful, magnificent Creator, and how He created our brains to work, and how our thoughts create these grooves in our brain, and they're like schoolyard paths. The more you walk on them, the more defined they become. But if you actively choose, like, I'm not going to take that path anymore, I'm going to go this way, it takes a while for that new path to form and for the old one to, you know, kind of be taken over, and with the grass, if you will. It takes a while for that one to not be our knee-jerk reaction, what we do out of habit, and for the new way to become our habit. And that's when I realized, if I'm having negative thoughts, I have to be the one to interrupt the pattern. I have to be the one to stop the cycle and say, no, I'm not thinking that way anymore. I'm thinking this instead. I'm going to actively choose to think this way and not this way. This way doesn't serve me. This way is not in line with the person I'm becoming. This person does not show honor and glory to my Creator. This is not walking in gratitude and happiness. I'm going this way. Number 2, I changed my inputs. We are the sum total of our inputs, meaning we have to be extremely intentional with what we allow to come in, what we listen to, what we see. And I would see very discouraging, relatable content online. And it wouldn't be long before I started taking on some of that miserable attitude that I saw and applying it to my own life. Like, man, I too am also touched out. I too am not appreciated. I also need a break. When you stop looking at that garbage, you'd be amazed at how little you actually think those things. And when you consume things that talk about how wonderful life is and how blessed you are to have a man who loves you enough to break his back working for you, you have a lot to be grateful for. I'm telling you, I've been on that one side, that side of misery and feeling super low and to the point of needing medication. Because girl, when I say I was in a bad place, I was in a bad place. Like, it's hard to know how vulnerable you want to be because people can be so ugly. But I will say it for the woman who's struggling. I was to the point of having a plan and figuring out what I wanted to write to my kids to say goodbye. I was low. When I tell you I was low, I was low. I've been in the valley of the shadow of death. But God, my Father is with me. Thy rock and thy staff, they comfort me. And now goodness and mercy follow me all the days of my life. So when I say you can find the happiness, you can find the joy, I'm not talking from the perspective of someone who's just had a really rotten day or a rotten 5 minutes and milked it all day. I know how hard it can be, but I also know the victory. And that is truly why I'm so passionate about getting on here and discussing this, because I do believe that our beautiful, wonderful Creator always intended for us to love our roles as mothers and as wives. And that's why it's in the Bible for the older women to teach the younger women to love their husbands and their children, because it's not easy. It's not easy to die to yourself. It's not easy to continually put others first and not listen to those whisperings of self-pity and selfishness, because my goodness, that's the flesh. It's all about itself. But when you actively choose to say, no, I don't want any part of that, and you choose the God-honoring, God-fearing way of thinking instead, and you become a completely different person. And I want that victory so very much for all of my sisters in Yeshua. So change your inputs. Don't look at any of that negative hoopla that makes you feel down and makes you think that it's normal to be down and sad. You know what? It probably is super duper normal for the world. And while that's heartbreaking in itself, we are called to be set apart. And it's on us to actively choose to listen to other women in the faith who have come before us and who are wise and have the gift of teaching and who genuinely care about you and want you to succeed, and they want to please the Heavenly Creator. They want to please the Father. They want to be told, well done, good and trustworthy servant. And they want that for you as well. That's the kind of input you need to have in your life. Okay, those need to be the filters. Like, are these women helping me grow? If not, I'm sorry, boo. I literally can't afford it. It's too costly. And then thirdly, I created non-negotiables for myself. To me, that looks like what my previous morning routine video, when I treat myself well by carving out time for myself, where I can be the introvert that Yahweh created me to be, where I can sit down and journal and get my thoughts in line and read my word and get my steps in, just all these things that I can do for myself that help me show up as my best version of myself as a mother. I feel like I owe it to myself and to my children, because I know these things help. And so when I don't take the time to do those things, I mean, there's always going to be times where you don't get up as early. There's always going to be times, like say your baby's up all night because they're cutting teeth or they're sick or you're not feeling well, so you need to sleep in. Like, there's grace for that. As long as you're not creating a habit of not doing the healthy things for you, there's always grace for those times where it just doesn't get done. But we habitually need to be taking care of ourselves, and we also need to be taking care of our homes habitually. We need to have systems in place, like meal planning, a laundry system, a cleaning system, how we choose to do our homeschool that works for our family and the different age groups we have. You need to have these routines. And I don't know, sometimes routines is not the right word. It strikes a chord with some people. If rhythms works better, because that sounds more flowy. You need rhythms and systems that help you be your best version of yourself, where you don't feel like everything that's on your plate is too weighty. but it feels well managed and well taken care of, that's what you need to do. And that's something that I told a dear friend this, like, I hesitate to be like, this is my system, this is how I do all these things, because I don't want to come across like you need to do it just like I do. Every woman's different. We have different husbands, we have different children. So each rhythm and flow of everyone's homes is going to need to be different based on your family's individual needs. But it is definitely worth sitting down with yourself and just, I would tackle one system at a time. One at a time, because if you try and change everything all at once, nothing's going to get changed. So stick with one that's pressing on you right now. If it's needing more consistent meals so that you know what's going on with your grocery budget, and it takes the guesswork and the decision fatigue out of you at the end of the day of like, oh God, what am I making for dinner? Do that. If it's, I feel like I am always doing laundry forever and for always, and it's always driving me nuts, then address your laundry system. If it's, I feel like my house is not tidy enough, you need to probably declutter and then start training your little helpers to help you around the house. But pick one and start implementing that until it becomes your habit, and then pick up another one, and then pick up another one. That's one of the beautiful things about being a full-time homemaker, is that you have lots of time to figure out what systems work for you, which ones don't, and you can toss them out guilt-free and just continue to improve your house. And that's really cool to just, because they do that in business all the time. They're seeing what works for our business, what is multiplying our efforts and what's taking away from them. Then you get to do that as the manager of your home. You can sit back and look at what's working and what's not and make the necessary adjustments. But my point is that these systems will help you have less overwhelm. And that's ultimately what we're going for here, is we want peace. Peace makes us feel successful as mothers and homemakers. So it's important that we do our part to implement as much peace as we can. And the way we do that is that we systematically cut down on things that create overwhelm, because overwhelm thrives in chaos. So we have to do our part to make things as minimally chaotic as possible. Okay, so final thoughts here is, I want you to know that you are not stuck. These feelings of overwhelm don't over-identify with them. They're not part of who you are. They're a symptom of the thoughts that you're having, possibly, if this is something you're struggling with, but it does not have to become your identity. We have the power to change our thoughts based on our Creator's wonderful design. And when we change our thoughts, we change our emotions in the environments that our minds live in. And that's pretty exciting, because then you could literally think whatever you want. So that means that when you change your thoughts, then your experience of motherhood will also change. So I think I've talked your ears off enough for one day. If you made it all the way through this video, you are a rock star, and I so appreciate you. My mom used to say that to me all the time, you're a rock star. I don't even listen to rock music, but I still appreciate the compliment, because I know what it implies. It's very sweet. So let me know in the comments below, what is a thought that you feel led to rewire right now? What is something that you feel like you need to redirect? And, just for the sake of the other commenters, even if they don't say anything, sometimes people will read and see that they're not the only ones struggling. And it's just so helpful to know that they're not alone. So for your fellow sisters out there, let's share. What is something we are working on rewiring? I'll go first. For me, I'm working on rewiring the thought of I'm touched out. Because, I really started to sit with myself and think, well, why do I say that to myself? Why do I tell myself I'm touched out? Why am I identifying as someone who gets to that point? Because it's totally a choice. Because like when my children are sick, I'm more than happy to let them cuddle on me for as long as they need it. And I give myself full permission to let things kind of just go by the wayside for the day, because my kids need me more. However, when it's at the end of the day and I've noticed I still wrestle with those thoughts of, oh, I'm done. I'm ready to clock out. I've had enough. And I thought, why do I identify as someone who tells herself she's turning into a pumpkin just because it's a certain time of the day? I don't have to do that. I don't have to tell myself that I'm done. So I started telling myself, I'm the same mom at sunset that I was at sunrise. Even though, it's not like you get to clock out as soon as the sun goes down, but that helps create the picture for me that I can be the same mom all day long. And I do not have to adopt the mindset that just because it's later on in the day, you can't hold on to mommy anymore. It's too much. I'm done. I'm clocking out. Like, that's something that I'm addressing for myself is, why am I choosing to identify with this? Because I don't have to. So anyway, I hope that was good for everybody. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing and possibly passing it along to someone you think it might also bless. Thank you, friends, and I hope you have a wonderful week.